Part 3: The First Landings. The storm had not broken by dawn. Kaunonga's sky was a lid of black iron, its clouds laced with heat lightning. Rain slicked the escarpments and turned the jungle floor to sucking mud, but the scouts held their hides. They lay still beneath tar camo and frond screens, rifles resting on bipods, eyes on the harbor below. Scout Sergeant Mathieu pressed a finger to his earbed as the orbital window opened on his slate. A green rune blinked confirmation. Strike craft were inbound. "Zero, this is observation 310 Alpha," he whispered, voice flat with calm. "I have eyes on target grid 7-2. Marking with infralays. Requesting fire mission. Type 1 control, danger close." On the harbor's east quay, a gun tower swept its barrel slowly back and forth. Mathieu's finger found the trigger stud on his designator and pressed. A tight beam of invisible light painted the tower's center line. "Laser on." "Confirm basket." "Basket confirmed," came the reply, tinny but cool over the link. The voice was a rapidly approaching Thunderhawk pilot. "Strike 2-1, calm as an empty tide." "Cleared hot," Mathieu said. The sky growled. A moment later, the first Thunderhawk came screaming in at rooftop height, wing flaps bleeding contrails in the rain. Its belly bay doors yawned, and a brace of crack missiles dropped free and lit their motors. The gun tower disappeared in a blossom of shrapnel and fire. The concussions slapped Mathieu's face and made the jungle fronds quiver. Secondary explosions rippled up the quay as the ready magazines cooked off. "Target down," Mathieu reported. "Shift 50 left, next gun tower, laser on." "Copy shift 50. We have your sparkle," the pilot answered. Two more Thunderhawks roared in low, their autocannons stitching the quay with explosive shells before rolling hard to port and climbing back into cloud. The harbor was awake now. Sirens howled and spotlights swept the dark. Patrols shouted, dragging mortars toward the firing line. Mathieu ignored them. "Zero, observation 310 Alpha," he said. "Recommend immediate re-attack on grid 7-3. Armor moving to quayside." "Copy observation 310 Alpha," came the reply. "Strike 2-1 and 2-2 re-attacking. Time on target 10 seconds. Roger, cleared hot." The next pass was lower. Mathieu saw the gleam of wet plating as the Thunderhawks' hulls flashed overhead, turbines rattling the jungle leaves. Their rockets hit like thrown spears, punching clean through the armored vehicle's decks before detonating inside. Fire geysered from the top hatches. "Splash," Mathieu confirmed. "Grid 7-3 neutralized." "Zero, this is observation 310. Alpha, guns are blind, recommend landing." "Confirmed observation 310 Alpha," came the reply. "Thunderhawks are committed, stand by." The first wave came as a rumble felt in the chest more than heard. Then the cloud split, and Thunderhawks dropped through like black birds of omen. Their engines howled against the storm, downdraft flattening trees and flinging spray from the harbor's surface. Mathieu and his squad watched in silence as the ramps dropped, and squads of black-armored Astartes stormed into the surf. Bolters barked almost immediately, their sound sharp and clean amid the rolling thunder. "Observation 310 Alpha," Mathieu said, breaking down his rifle. "Moving to phase line coral to provide overwatch on the left flank." The scouts melted back into the foliage, leaving the shattered quay to the advancing squads of Astartes. Brother Sergeant Vicato hit the beach at a run, water sheeted up to his knees, trident held low. His boots struck mud, then stone, then quay, as the Thunderhawk behind him hosed the landing zone with its nose gun to keep the cultists' heads down. "Third form," Kawata's voice cut across the squad net, crisp as a knife strike. Vicato signaled his fire team forward, forming the company's leftmost point. Bolter fire cracked and sparked off metal crates stacked high along the dock. Vicato hurled a frag through the gap, felt the concussion slap against his chest plate, then surged in with storm bolter hammering. The defenders broke. Some fled toward the warehouses, others simply dropped their weapons and raised bleeding hands. Kawata gave no order to take prisoners. Third advanced methodically, clearing each section of quay, stacking on doors and breaching with melter charges. Above, Storm Eagles made another pass, guns chewing through a pair of last-ditch autocannon nests. Observation 3. 10 Alpha, Matthew's voice crackled over the net. Enemy armor staging south of the quay, marking with lays. Kawata's response was instant. Strike package Tertius 7 cleared hot. The Storm Eagles banked hard and came around, unloading rockets into the armor line. The blasts turned the staging area into a storm of fire and shrapnel, cooking off munitions and scattering the surviving crew. Landing zone secured, Kawata voxed, his voice measured but not cold. Signal to fleet, begin landing second wave, the reef is broken. By the time the last shot was fired, the North Harbor was a smoke-shrouded ruin. Cult banners burned where they had been nailed to the quay walls. Astartes moved among the shattered docks, kicking weapons into piles, planting chapter standards along the waterfront. Waikato paused beside a rusted crane and looked toward the interior of the island. Black smoke twisted up from the Vigil's direction, glowing faintly with warp light. The sight hardened something in him. Still standing, Heke muttered at his side. Not for long, Waikato said, trident dripping rain. In orbit, Aranga Moana watched the picked feed from the lead Thunderhawk. His expression did not change as the harbor came into view, blackened but held. North Harbor secured, Tehoka reported. Aranga's hand rested on the haft of Tewetu Kaihau. Then we are ashore, he said quietly. Signal the fleet. Begin massed landings. Kaunonga's teeth are gone. Now we break its spine. The rain thickened as the day wore on. Third Company dug in along the northern quay, turning the shattered harbor into a fortress. Auspex drones rose into the air, their red lenses sweeping the perimeter. Tarpaulins were strung across broken gantries to shield ammo caches from the downpour. The smell of promethium and wet metal hung heavy over everything. Matthew's scouts had ranged out into no man's land to provide early warning of any movement, as well as to destroy any enemy reconnaissance doing the same as them. 30 minutes ago, they had warned of an approaching column from the Vigil. Now, Waikato crouched beside the quay wall, helm lenses glowing faintly in the gloom as he surveyed the kill zone beyond. His squad was spread across a row of blasted cargo sheds, forming the company's leftmost anchor. Mine set, he voxed. Set, replied Heke, his voice a low growl. We've wired the causeway choke. Nothing rolls through without losing wheels. Good, Waikato said. Across the harbor, guardsmen of the 117th Hestian Amphibious Rifles were arriving by low-slung troop craft, their hulls still slick from the surf. They disembarked in orderly lines under the looming shadows of Astartes. Their captain saluted Kawata, who gave a single curt nod and pointed him toward the southern perimeter. This isn't the time for a stand-up fight, Kawata told him. You hold until the second wave lands, then dig your foxholes. The storm will do the rest. The first shells came just before midnight, dropping out of the clouds with a hollow whistle. The first landed short, throwing a column of water into the quay. The second struck closer, splintering a section of jetty and shredding 2 servitors. Counter battery, Kawata barked. Track those tubes. Auspex runes flared on Wakato's HUD. The scouts were already at work. Strike 2-1, this is observation 310 Alpha, came Matthew's calm voice over the net. Enemy mortars firing from grid 6-8 behind a ridgeline. Marking now. Copy observation 310 Alpha, answered Strike 2-1 from altitude. We have your sparkle. Stand by for ordnance. Cleared hot, Matthew said. 5 seconds later, the ridgeline erupted as rockets tore through it. The return fire stopped. Splash, Mathieu reported, somewhat redundantly. Thrown, said an unknown voice over the vox. You think? Good work, 3 Alpha, Coata cut in, already shifting attention to the eastern key. Third, contact front. Send these heretical scum to the warp. Shapes were moving in the storm. Trucks and crawlers, their headlights dimmed and tarps rigged for cover. The traitors came howling, firing stubbers and las rifles as they advanced. The first line tripped the mines. The blast hurled men and metal into the air in a boiling arc. Fire! Vicato roared. The key lit up as dozens of bolters barked in unison. Explosive shells ripped through the lead vehicles, flipping one on its side and turning the next into a fireball. The remaining attackers scattered and tried to advance through the smoke. Keep them off the wire, Hecker shouted. He braced his trident in the rubble and fired short, disciplined bursts until the magazine ran dry. The cultists pressed hard. Twice they reached the barricades, and twice Vicato's squad met them in brutal close-quarters combat, tridents and chainswords flashing in the dark. One of the guardsman platoons broke under pressure, but Coata was already moving, his stormbolter roaring as he waded into the gap. The line held. 3-0, this is OBS 310-0. Mathieu's voice cut through the storm. Armor convoy moving down South Causeway. 12 vehicles, half-tracked. Suggest interdiction before they reach grid 7-2. Copy 310-0, we have strike wings on station. 3 Storm Eagles screamed in low from the sea, their engines a rolling howl. Bomb racks opened, spilling cluster munitions across the causeway. When the fire and dust cleared, nothing was left but burning hulks. By 0300, the fighting had faded away. The rain hissed against burning wrecks and the harbor was quiet again, save for the groan of distant thunder and the occasional shot as patrolling guardsmen executed wounded enemy. Perimeter secure, Vicato voxed. His armor was pitted and slick with rain, his trident stained dark. Enemy broken. Confirmed, Coata replied. Third holds, casualty report to follow. When morning came, the storm finally broke. Pale light spilled across the ruined quay, revealing the cost of the night. Wrecked vehicles smoked where they had been caught in the kill zone. Corpses lay tangled in the mud. The chapter's banner snapped wetly in the breeze over the North Harbor. Vicato stood on the quay wall, helm off, rainwater dripping from the scars on his face. Beyond the harbor, the vigil still burned purple-black. This was just the first round, Hecky said, joining him, as he placed his helm back on. Vicato nodded once, then we'd break the second harder. In orbit, Aranga Moana stood over the hololith as fresh reports came in from the campaigns being fought around the planet by his companies. North Harbor held through the night, Tehoka reported. Enemy counterattack broken. Light casualties, causeways choked with wreckage. Good, Aranga said. His trident struck the deck once, ringing like a bell. Then we push inland. The heart of Kaunonga waits, and we shall cut it out. Part 4 coming soon. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you have enjoyed this story.